The Æneid of Virgil. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Æneid of Virgil. Translated by John Dryden. Book 2. Enough is paid to Priam's royal name, more than enough to duty and to fame. If by a mortal hand my father's throne could be defended, 'twas by mine alone. Now Troy to thee commends her future state, and gives her gods companions of thy fate. From their assistance walls expect, which wandering long at last thou shalt erect. He said, and brought me from their blest abodes the venerable statues of the gods, with ancient Vesta from the sacred choir, the wreaths and relics of the immortal fire. Now peals of shouts come thundering from afar, cries, threats, and loud laments, and mingled war. The noise approaches, though our palace stood aloof from streets, encompassed with a wood. Louder and yet more loud I hear the alarms of human cries distinct and clashing arms. Fear broke my slumbers. I no longer stay, but mount the terrace, thence the town survey, and hearken what the frightful sounds convey. Thus, when a flood of fire by wind is borne, crackling it rolls, and mows the standing corn; or deluges, descending on the plains, sweep o'er the yellow year, destroy the pains of labouring oxen and the peasant's gains, unroot the forest oaks, and bear away flocks, folds, and trees, and undistinguish'd prey. The shepherd climbs the cliff, and sees from far the wasteful ravage of the watery war. Then Hector's faith was manifestly clear'd, and Grecian frauds in open light appear'd. The palace of Deiphobus ascends in smoky flames, and catches on his friends. Ucalegon burns next. The seas are bright with splendour not their own, and shine with Trojan light. New clamours and new clangours now arise, the sound of trumpets mix'd with fighting cries. With frenzy seiz'd, I run to meet the alarms, resolv'd on death, resolv'd to die in arms, but first to gather friends, with them to oppose, if fortune favour'd, and repel the foes. Spurr'd by my courage, by my country fir'd, with sense of honour and revenge inspir'd. Pantheus, Apollo's priest, a sacred name, had scaped the Grecian swords, and pass'd the flame. With relics loaden to my doors he fled, and by the hand his tender grandson led. What hope, O Pantheus? Whither can we run? Where make a stand? And what may yet be done? Scarce had I said, when Pantheus with a groan, Troy is no more, and Ilium was a town. The fatal day, the appointed hour is come, when wrathful Jove's irrevocable doom transfers the Trojan state to Grecian hands. The fire consumes the town, the foe commands, and arm'd hosts, an unexpected force, break from the bowels of the fatal horse. Within the gates, proud Sinon throws about the flames, and foes for entrance press without, with thousand others, whom I fear to name. More than from Argos or Mycenae came. To several posts their parties they divide. Some block the narrow streets, some scour the wide. The bold they kill, the unwary they surprise. Who fights finds death, and death finds him who flies. The warders of the gate but scarce maintain th' unequal combat, and resist in vain. I heard, and heav'n, that well-born souls inspires, prompts me thro' lifted swords and rising fires to run where clashing arms and clamour calls, and rush undaunted to defend the walls. Ripheus and Iphitus by my side engage, for valour one renown'd, and one for age. Demas and Hippanis by moonlight knew my motions and my mien, and to my party drew. With young Corybus, who by love was led to win renown and fair Cassandra's bed, and lately brought his troops to Priam's aid, forewarn'd in vain by the prophetic maid. Whom when I saw resolv'd in arms to fall, and that one spirit animated all, "Brave souls," said I, "but brave, alas, in vain! Come, finish what our cruel fates ordain. You see the desperate state of our affairs, and heaven's protecting powers are deaf to prayers. The passive gods behold the Greeks defile their temples, and abandon to the spoil their own abodes. We, feeble few, conspire to save a sinking town involved in fire. Then let us fall, but fall amidst our foes. Despair of life the means of living shows. So bold a speech encouraged their desire of death, and added fuel to their fire. As hungry wolves with raging appetite scour through the fields, nor fear the stormy night, their whelps at home expect the promised food, and long to temper their dry chaps in blood, so rush'd we forth at once, resolved to die, resolved in death the last extremes to try. We leave the narrow lanes behind, and dare the unequal combat in the public square. Night was our friend, our leader was despair. What tongue can tell the slaughter of that night? What eyes can weep the sorrows and affright? An ancient and imperial city falls. The streets are filled with frequent funerals. Houses and holy temples float in blood, and hostile nations make a common flood. Not only Trojans fall, but in their turn the vanquish'd triumph, and the victors mourn. Ours take new courage from despair and night. Confused the fortune is, confused the fight. All parts resound with tumults, plaints, and fears, and grisly death in sundry shapes appears. Androgeos fell among us with his band, who thought us Grecians newly come to land. From whence, said he, my friends, this long delay? You loiter while the spoils are borne away. Our ships are laden with the Trojan store, and you like truants come too late ashore. He said, but soon corrected his mistake. Found by the doubtful answers which we make, amazed he would have shunn'd the unequal fight. But we more numerous intercept his flight, as when some peasant in a bushy brake has with unwary footing press'd a snake. He starts aside, astonish'd, when he spies his rising crest, blue neck, and rolling eyes. So from our arms surprised Androgeos flies. In vain, for him and his we compass'd round, possess'd with fear, unknowing of the ground, and of their lives an easy conquest found. Thus fortune on our first endeavour smiled. Charybdis then, with youthful hopes beguiled, swollen with success and a daring mind, this new invention fatally designed. My friends, said he, since fortune shows the way, 'tis fit we should the auspicious guide obey. For what has she these Grecian arms bestow'd, but their destruction and the Trojans' good? Then change we shields, and their devices bear. Let fraud supply the want of force in war. They find us arms. This said, himself he dress'd in dead Androgeos' spoils, his upper vest, his painted buckler, and his plumy crest. Thus Ripheus, Demas, all the Trojan train, lay down their own attire, and strip the slain. Mix'd with the Greeks, we go with ill presage, flatter'd with hopes to glut our greedy rage. Unknown, assaulting whom we blindly meet, and strew with Grecian carcasses the street. Thus while their straggling parties we defeat, some to the shore and safer ships retreat, and some, oppress'd with more ignoble fear, remount the hollow horse, and pant in secret there. End of Section 3. But what use of valour can be made, when heaven's propitious powers refuse their aid? Behold the royal prophetess, the fair Cassandra, dragg'd by her dishevelled hair, whom not Minerva's shrine nor sacred bands in safety could protect from sacrilegious hands. On heaven she cast her eyes, she sigh'd, she cried, 'twas all she could, her tender arms were tied. So sad a sight Charybdis could not bear, but fir'd with rage, distracted with despair, amid the barbarous ravishers he flew. Our leader's rash example we pursue. But storms of stones from the proud temple's height pour down, and on our batter'd helms alight. We from our friends received this fatal blow, who thought us Grecians, as we seem'd in show. They aim at the mistaken crests from high, and ours beneath the ponderous ruin lie. Then, mov'd with anger and disdain to see their troops dispers'd, the royal virgin free, the Grecians rally, and their powers unite, with fury charge us and renew the fight. The brother kings with Ajax join their force, and the whole squadron of Thessalian horse. Thus, when the rival winds their quarrel try, contending for the kingdom of the sky, south, east, and west, on airy coursers borne, the whirlwind gathers, and the woods are torn. Then Nereus strikes the deep, the billows rise, and mix'd with ooze and sand pollute the skies. The troops we squander'd first again appear from several quarters, and enclose the rear. They first observe, and to the rest betray our different speech, our borrow'd arms survey. Oppress'd with odds we fall, Corybus first, at Pallas' altar by Peneleus pierc'd. Then Ripheus follow'd in the unequal fight, just of his word, observant of the right. Heav'n thought not so; Demas their fate attends, with Hypanis mistaken by their friends. Nor Pantheus thee, thy mitre, nor the bands of awful Phoebus saved from impious hands. Ye Trojan flames, your testimony bear What I perform'd, and what I suffer'd there. No sword avoiding in the fatal strife, exposed to death, and prodigal of life. Witness, ye heavens, I live not by my fault; I strove to have deserv'd the death I sought. But when I could not fight, and would have died, borne off to distance by the growing tide, old Iphitus and I were hurried thence, with Peleus wounded and without defence. New clamours from the invested palace ring; we run to die or disengage the king. So hot the assault, so high the tumult rose, whiles ours defend, and while the Greeks oppose, as all the Dardan and Argolic race had been contracted in that narrow space. Or as all Ilium else were void of fear and tumult, war, and slaughter only there. Their targets in a tortoise cast, the foes, secure advancing, to the turrets rose. Some mount the scaling ladders, some, more bold, swerve upwards, and by posts and pillars hold. Their left hand grips their bucklers in the ascent, while with their right they seize the battlement. From their demolish'd towers the Trojans throw huge heaps of stones, that falling crush the foe, and heavy beams and rafters from the sides. Such arms their last necessity provides, and gilded roofs come tumbling from on high, the marks of state and ancient royalty. The guards below, fix'd in the pass, attend the charge undaunted, and the gate defend. Renew'd in courage with recover'd breath, a second time we ran to tempt our death, to clear the palace from the foe, succeed the weary living, and revenge the dead. A postern door, yet unobserv'd and free, join'd by the length of a blind gallery, to the king's closet led, a way well known to Hector's wife, while Priam held the throne, through which she brought Astyanax unseen, to cheer his grandsire and his grandsire's queen. Through this we pass, and mount the tower, from whence with unavailing arms the Trojans make defence. From this the trembling king had oft descried the Grecian camp, and saw their navy ride. Beams from its lofty height with swords we hew, then, wrenching with our hands, the assault renew. And, where the rafters on the columns meet, we push them headlong with our arms and feet. The lightning flies not swifter than the fall, nor thunder louder than the ruin'd wall. Down goes the top at once; the Greeks beneath are piecemeal torn, or pounded into death. Yet more succeed, and more to death are sent. We cease not from above, nor they below relent. Before the gate stood Pyrrhus, threat'ning loud, with glittering arms conspicuous in the crowd. So shines, renew'd in youth, the crested snake, who slept the winter in a thorny brake, and casting off his slough when spring returns, now looks aloft, and with new glory burns. Restor'd with poisonous herbs, his ardent sides reflect the sun, and raised on spires he rides. High o'er the grass hissing he rolls along, and brandishes by fits his forky tongue. Proud Periphas and fierce Automedon, his father's charioteer, together run to force the gate. The Syrian infantry rush on in crowds, and the barr'd passage free. Entering the court, with shouts the skies they rend, and flaming firebrands to the roofs ascend. Himself among the foremost deals his blows, and with his axe repeated strokes bestows on the strong doors. Then all their shoulders ply, till from the posts the brazen hinges fly. He hews apace; the double bars at length yield to his axe and unresisted strength. A mighty breach is made; the rooms conceal'd appear, and all the palace is reveal'd. the halls of audience and of public state, and where the lonely queen in secret sate. Arm'd soldiers now by trembling maids are seen, with not a door and scarce a space between. The house is fill'd with loud laments and cries, and shrieks of women rend the vaulted skies. The fearful matrons run from place to place, and kiss the thresholds, and the posts embrace. The fatal work inhuman Pyrrhus plies, and all his father sparkles in his eyes. Nor bars nor fighting guards his force sustain. The bards are broken, and the guards are slain. In rush the Greeks, and all the apartments fill. Those few defendants whom they find they kill. Not with so fierce a rage the foaming flood roars, when he finds his rapid course withstood. Bears down the dams with unresisted sway, and sweeps the cattle and the cots away. These eyes beheld him when he march'd between the brother kings. I saw the unhappy queen, the 100 wives, and where old Priam stood, to stain his hallow'd altar with his brood. The 50 nuptial beds, such hopes had he, so large a promise of a progeny. The posts of plated gold, and hung with spoils, fell the reward of the proud victor's toils. Where'er the raging fire had left a space, the Grecians enter and possess the place. Perhaps you may of Priam's fate enquire. He, when he saw his regal town on fire, his ruin'd palace, and his entering foes, on every side inevitable woes, in arms disus'd, invests his limbs decay'd, like them with age, a late and useless aid. His feeble shoulders scarce the weight sustain. Loaded, not arm'd, he creeps along with pain, despairing of success, ambitious to be slain.